Wisk, the people's autonomous and accessible air taxi. Speakers: Uri Zarnotsky, Director of Product Design, Wisk. Saurabh Nimsakar, Staff UI UX Designer, Wisk. Moderator: Brian Bashan, Vice Chair, Be My Eyes.
Well, thank you, Alice Turner, and thank you to the entire SciTech Global team for inviting me to moderate this panel on autonomous air taxis. You know, if you blinked, you wouldn't have noticed that there are now 40 companies involved in developing autonomous air taxis, spending at approximately $8.5 billion in this investment. You know, the open literature estimates that the market size today is something like $3 billion. But in 10 years, this market is more than $37 billion. 80% of these taxis will be electric, which means that all of them are going to be designed afresh and new. And there's an opportunity and possibly an area of interest for people with disabilities. So let me introduce Wisk, who is one of the leaders in this field, a wholly owned subsidiary of Boeing. And we've got two principals from Wisk today. One is Saurabh Nimsarkar and Uri Zarnotsky. Gentlemen, can you introduce yourselves and tell us about your roles in Wisk?
Sure. Thanks, Brian. Thank you for having us. My name is Saurabh Nimsarkar. I am UI UX designer with Wisk. I'm responsible for designing physical and digital products and services with accessibility as a priority. What are you, Uri?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Brian. That was awesome. Yeah, Uri Charnotsky. I'm the director of product design at Wisk. I'm responsible for leading a team of designers, industrial design, user interface design in our studio. We're responsible for the exterior design, the interior design, the user experience design of all our aircraft and services. Been here for nearly 13 years now.
Fantastic. And what an opportunity you have, as evidenced by the set that you're speaking from. Maybe we should set the scene here by just a short video that you have that explains a bit more about the system and how it's designed and operates.
The video begins with a shot of the exterior of the Generation 6 aircraft. It's yellow. It has silver booms with lift fan system that is white mounted on top. We pan across a shot of the cabin showing 4 white seats and yellow harnesses. We then see the cabin passenger display instructing passengers to put their bags away. We see a woman putting her purse in the storage bin and lowering the console lid to protect it. Then we see a passenger hit continue on the display. It tells you to stow your drink, and so we see a passenger putting their travel mug in the cup holder located next to the storage bin. They hit continue again and see an animation of a mannequin putting their harness on, and then we see the person put the harness in the buckle as well. They hit continue and are informed of emergency egress procedures. After reading them, the person hits continue again, and they're instructed that there's a call button on the headliner above their head and that we're here to help. They hit continue again. An annunciation showing takeoff with a countdown timer of 3, 2, 1, showing the aircraft animation lifting off into the sky. The animation then transitions into forward flight, showing the aircraft flying through the city. A yellow ribbon extends out of the nose of the aircraft, showing the path that the aircraft will be flying. There's also a progress bar along the top of the display. A warning pops up saying that we're landing in 3 minutes and to put your items away. The passenger hits OK. Then we see a shot of the rest of the cabin with a Wisk logo on the bulkhead. And the video ends with the Wisk logo splashing on a yellow screen.
Wow, that was pretty cool. So I mentioned that new tech always raises a bit of concern for people with disabilities. As a blind guy myself, I've seen other new emerging technology that hasn't served customers well. I'll give you a few examples. Kindle, which introduced a Kindle reader for schools that didn't talk. Induction ranges, consumer electronics that are not accessible. durable medical equipment for blind people that are not usable by blind people, destination elevators that blind people can't use. And even after 14 years, Uber service in most cities has a tiny, tiny number of vehicles that can accommodate people in wheelchairs. So a lot of companies, just people with disabilities, we don't exist for them. Somehow Wisk is different. So the question to both of you is, what made you start thinking about people with disabilities from the get-go as you started your design?
Yeah, you are actually spot on with that comment. Let's take an example of e-scooters, for example. I mean, people use e-scooters and they just put them on the sidewalks, even though they solve like problems for a few of them, like last mile and first mile, but they can sort of create more problems for wider audiences. For example, I mean, if e-scooters are on the sidewalk, they are like a barrier for wheelchair users. They are a barrier for people using white canes and service and guide dog. So yeah, eVTOL industry, it's like fairly new. It will solve problems for many of the people. It will like bring communities together. It will create new routes. But we are sort of like proactively looking at this space. We want to design for the future, and to note that we are pretty early in this stage. We're gonna launch commercially within this decade, so we have a lot of time to work upon it. And we are sort of in this design phase. We have started researching more about the eVTOL space. We have done ethnographic foundational research. We have interviewed people with disabilities to know their challenges, their rhythms and rituals, and the travel patterns, so that we are designing for the future. And our vision at Wisk is delivering safe flight for everyone. And as you said in your comments, that it's not for elites, it's not for aviation enthusiasts, it's for everyone with accessibility at the focus. I'm sure Ari must have some more insights to add on to that point.
Yeah, so fundamentally, this is our sixth generation aircraft that we're currently developing. And what we're doing this time is ensuring that from the beginning, before the aircraft configuration or design was frozen, that we've taken accessibility into consideration. So in our studio, with mock-ups, VR, digital and physical interfaces, we bring people in. We've brought in the elderly, we've brought in children, we've brought in people with mobility disabilities with their equipment, people with vision disabilities with their service animals. So we've really tried to incorporate as many viewpoints as possible to inform the design of the aircraft before it was locked down.
And that is such a huge step ahead of many consumer products that try to band-aid something only after it's released. We can go through a long list of things like that. But I still want to get at this question. You guys are pretty enlightened as tech startups go. Did you know a person with a disability that influenced you to think about this? Are you responding to ultimately to some regulatory things? What caused you to do what we wish so many other companies would do in the early design?
That's a really good question. So right from the design phase, we sort of understood that if you want to be successful, we have to design it for everyone. And we sort of follow this universal design principle that if you want to design for people with disability, it will benefit the wider audience, not only for our brand, but also for making like strategic decisions like community engagement or partnering with multimodal agencies, so that that people who sort of reach the vertiport, which is like the equivalent of the airport for us, that the initial flight and the concluding, so the initial journey and the concluding part of the journey is all taken care of.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm responding to any one specific thing, but I don't think anyone that's traveled in any mode of transportation, especially air travel, I think they recognize the friction in almost every step of the process. I think that's especially true of kind of multimodal journeys where you have to go from one thing to the next. And I think no one is hit harder than the community that may be living with a disability, permanent or temporary. So I think again, as Saurabh said, making sure that it works for everyone and recognizing that when we make it work for everyone, it makes that experience that much better and kind of elevating the experience for everyone. It goes beyond what regulators ask for. We really view it as what's out there as kind of a floor, and it's really just focusing on accessibility. But what we've learned by speaking with people is that's a pretty low bar to aim for. What we want to do is aim higher, achieve higher. We want to aim at this pyramid that I think we could talk about, where the peak would be a joy and inclusion for everyone involved in the process. And again, minimizing that multimodal friction so that this is a truly viable option for people.
You know, I really appreciate your understanding that the laws are a very low bar. The Air Carrier Access Act, been in place for nearly 40 years. It's responsible for things that are really problems. As a blind traveler myself, you know, all those kiosks in the general world talk now and can be accessible. No airport kiosk is accessible, not required by the Air Carrier Access Act. The people who escort us around, they usually work for baggage. The Air Carrier Access Act never required, and it took 80 years until finally United Airlines decided to put something as elementary as Braille numbers on seats so blind passengers could walk their own way to their own seats. So I really appreciate that you guys are anticipating what will be not just a floor, but really as this becomes a common carrier or a public utility, it has to be a space for all Americans. Again, what is your passion on that? How did you look at consumer product design or transit design so inclusively?
Yeah, I mean, we should really take a step back and talk about what this aircraft and service is and what it's capable of and its mission. And I think that will inform a little bit about the product design choices. So what we're talking about is a four-seater, and the cabin that we're in, it's arranged like a sedan. So it's a 2x2 seating arrangement. Everyone is facing forward. Everyone has their own door. There's no aisle. So it really is very car-like, and the goal there was to make it as approachable as possible and not threatening and you know, familiar. So that's kind of the kind of automotive approach behind it. And what someone would use this for would be short hops in dense urban environments. And the example we like to point to is a simple route taking you from LAX, you know, huge busy airport, out to somewhere like Long Beach. So if you Google that route right now with rush hour traffic, you're probably going to come up with like a 40-minute number, something like that. And if you were to fly with Wisk, it would be something on the order of 8 or 9 minutes. So you don't have to fly far to realize a huge time savings. So these are short hops, like 20, 30 minutes. And they're meant to get people around as if you were taking your car. You can bring yourself aboard, your personal bag item. There's room in the nose of the aircraft for a roller bag. So part of the mission is really, you know, that kind of last mile idea where you go from landing at a commercial airport, taking your bags with you, and this would get you one step closer to your ultimate destination. Sorry, go ahead.
I love that you started to talk about your bags and wheel boards. One of the things with people with disabilities, say people who use power wheelchairs, is being separated from your chair and then finding it in baggage upon your arrival, often broken. You have a different idea of how people who use power wheelchairs will use the Wisk system. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, that's a great challenge. I mean, like if you consider current scenario, like thousands of wheelchairs are damaged by airlines every month. We had a participant who we invited in the month of February, and his wheelchair was broken, and we re-invited him last month, and again his wheelchair was again broken by an airline. So you can see the frequency of damage which has been caused by the airlines. For us, since our configuration is like four-seater, we have a provision that we can remove one of the seat from the aircraft and use that space to put a wheelchair, which is like foldable wheelchair inside the cabin. So we have something called as a platform-based design. So we can remove all the seats. If you want to like remove two seats, we can always accommodate a bigger wheelchair. So we have that provision that we can always remove one seat and people can put their own wheelchair inside the cabin. One of the insight which we got from our research that people who are using wheelchair, they absolutely love their wheelchair. It's like another bodily limb for them. Like they have emotional attachment to their wheelchair and they always want their wheelchair inside. And what is happening currently is that they have to like give away their personal belonging, their wheelchair to some other person who does not handle the wheelchair properly. So our value proposition is that your wheelchair is always by your side, in your sight, and if you want to like access your wheelchair, you can always do that.
I think a common question we get is being able to sit in your wheelchair for the journey. What we're striving to do is to keep you in your own wheelchair for as long as possible, right up to the last moment when you are adjacent to the seat in the aircraft, where you can do that lateral transfer. That is, we're not taking you out of your device, putting you in another, and then making multiple changes. Why we can't let someone use their wheelchair in flight is because the seats in our aircraft are actually certified helicopter seats. They have to be able to absorb energy on a hard landing. And so no wheelchair currently would be able to manage those loads. I know that they're looking into certifying wheelchairs for airline travel. Those only have to survive forward loads, but because we have that other component, that vertical takeoff and landing component, we have to use the certified seats in the aircraft. I am waiting for a future when we have wheelchairs that are certified for this scenario as well, for these type of aircraft and this form of mobility.
Okay. For blind people who are travelers, we want to know what's going on. How long until we get there? Where are we now? If anything is happening during flight. Could you tell about the in-flight experience and a Wisk craft for blind people who cannot see that information screen?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me actually take it one step even further, which is, as you mentioned, this is an autonomous aircraft. So everyone is going to have a certain level of apprehension. And one of the things that we're trying to do with the interface is to ensure that it gives people a sense of situational awareness. And so we're trying to do that with every sensory input we can tap into to make sure that you're aware of where you are, what the aircraft is doing, what it's going to do next, how much time is remaining, and of course, keeping you in constant contact with our remote hospitality crew. So there's someone on the ground monitoring the flight, and they're always available for you to speak to them. So we have a call button, which initiates a call. We also have text-based messaging, which can actually happen on the passenger's own personal mobile device. So we are well aware that we can't compete with Apple or Android and all the accessibility features and software that are built into those phones. So what we want to do is tap into those. So we have in-flight cabin Wi-Fi that basically lets your phone piggyback onto the comms system in the aircraft. So we're able to utilize your own device, which is something that each person has personalized and is sure works for them. So we have device charging in the aircraft to make sure your device doesn't quit on you. But then all those other systems that kind of support that situational awareness. By default, the cabin display has kind of a picture-in-picture view for American Sign Language. All the communications have closed captioning. The safety briefing is accompanied by a safety data card, which is all Braille. So we've tried to make every step of the way kind of accessible. You want to talk a little bit more about kind of ingress and egress?
Yeah.
And
So what we learned from our research is that most often airline, they think they sort of view a person with disability in isolation. But for what we realized that the caretakers, the care ecology, companions, service dog, they're also equally important. And most often people don't think about those care ecologies. So what we are designing is we are not only designing for the people with disabilities, but also for their care ecologies, for their service animal, their service dog. So our cabin will have enough space for a service dog to be inside the cabin. We are doing research on how to accommodate service animal. In our research, we have realized that even something like steps are also really important for the service dog. One of the example was that for one participant, the service dog was not able to get on to the aircraft because the step height was too much. So we are sort of designing not only for people with disabilities for the consideration of ingress and egress, but also for the service dog.
I really appreciate that. And of course, as an autonomous vehicle, there is no driver to discriminate against service animals, which is a common problem and one that autonomy may help in solving. Well, I am deeply impressed by the commitment that you have in the early design stages of this craft. And I hope that all companies designing million and billion-dollar systems understand that the kind of design thinking here is what we want going forward. I want to thank you on behalf of SiteTech Global and look forward to hearing more about the system as it evolves and becomes something we can all be proud of as people with disabilities. Back to you, Alice.